So from that point on, I learned that no matter what the job was, if you took pride in what you were doing, you could do a good job. And I kind of led with that lesson all my life. If you're going to do something, do it well. Be proud of what you do.
So they were loading the wagon and I was driving the team. And like he said, the one horse kind of bucked the other and the bridle came off and away they went. And the fence was coming up fast. It was probably about out where that telephone pole is. And my dad yelled, pull the brakes. And we were fortunate enough that we had a wagon that had brakes. Most wagons didn't. But my dad was very ingenious at inventing things, and he had rigged up a wagon that was on rubber wheels with brakes. So I pulled the brakes and the back tires started to drag and the horses went slower and slower, and we stopped just at the fence. I did everything with him. I was only about 7, maybe 6, 7 years old when he taught me to drive the car. Made a little seat for me so it boosted me up, put some wooden extensions on the brake and the clutch, because in those days you had a clutch too, you know, so that I could reach them, and I would drive the car from fence post to fence post as he was fencing. And he'd stay on the trailer in the back. He never had a truck. And so I was really little when I started doing all the things he needed a hired man for. Milk cows, cut hay, rake hay, cut corn, shock grain, whatever there was to do. Us girls were out there.
I just say I remember my mother living here and telling how she walked. She taught school over at the West Church over there and walked from here across the field. But in her sleep, even years later, she'd wake up dreaming about those bulls that you were out in the field, afraid to chasing her around. I just always remember her telling about that.
What I took away from my growing up was different than my siblings, but because my father had very serious health problems and I was afraid that he would die any time, I felt I had to learn how to run this farm and take over in case he was gone quickly someday. So I learned every aspect of running the business from the time I was very little, and knew how to do all the mechanical things, the genetics, the horticulture, every part of it. So if I was 15 and I became responsible, I knew how to do what needed to be done. So I feel like I learned to be cognizant of business issues way before most people ever do. I'm saying 10 years earlier than most. So this gave me a history and a cognizance that helped me later in life.
Dad was just everything to me. He always was. I just don't even know what to say about him. He was strong, and he was a little bit hot-tempered sometimes, especially when you were dealing with the cows or cutting the hay and missing the corners. He wasn't too happy about that. But he just did so many things with me and taught me so many things. And I remember him saying to me, when I said, I just can't. And he said, Joy girl, you can do anything you put your mind to. And then I knew I could do it. So that was something I always thought of my dad telling me. You can do it if you try.
Had to patch his own overalls after nobody else was there to do it. With the old...
He was a handyman.
He was handy at everything.
Our kids called him Grandpa Fix-It.
Yeah. Yeah, he could fix anything. And he would take all the time in the world to fix
and
something.
describe his hands.
His hands? Oh my gosh. He had the biggest hands I have ever seen. Well, and maybe not the biggest, but the thickest fingers, and he would use those thick fingers to pick up those little pieces and put things together that you wouldn't believe could ever get put back together.
My dad was, then he went through St. Olaf, and he was always trying to make money. They had no money. So he entered the 4-H, there was a contest for the person to write the 4-H hymn, national contest. And he wrote it, and he made $25. You know, but so we always sang. I was in 4-H forever, and we sang his song every month at our meetings. So that was fun. But then
we decided we wanted excitement, so we decided to go to Alaska. And I bought a car. I believe it was a new one, right? Who wouldn't know? And we got a map, and we mapped it out, and was it 4,000 miles? Is that about it? To where we went, to Anchorage. I had one girlfriend, one acquaintance up there, and I wrote her to tell her, and she wrote back, and she said, "Don't be afraid of the highway. It's a few places are tough," and so forth. We got stuck once or twice, but there was always a piece of machinery working on the highway, so we got pulled out.
How many flat tires did you get?
Two, I think. But always some man came along and changed the tires.
So what year are we talking here?
Boy,
I think it was 1950.
1950 about.
1950?
Mm-hmm.
The Alcan was not yet complete. It was open, but it was all gravel. There was no hard surface.
We got stuck a couple times in the mud, but there was always somebody to pull us out. And
What was the most remarkable thing you saw on this trip?
the beauty of the mountains as we got closer up to Anchorage, and just the excitement of meeting all these wonderful people up there that treated us like queens.
What would you say the most important thing that you learned from your upbringing? How you were brought up, who brought you up, where you came from? What's the most important thing you learned that you could kind of carry forward in your life?
Well, God put us each in a place. And my motto has always been, grow where you're planted. And that's what I hope I've instilled in my children, and that they can be satisfied and not always be yearning for something beyond what they're able to have. So, because there's just so much good in life, and so much, God is so good to all of us. That's the important thing, is to always realize that.